Welcome back to the Chasing Happiness podcast, an honest podcast about finding happiness, what it really means, and the process of getting there. My name is Crystal, and today I'm actually going to start out by saying thank you. Thank you to all of you who reached out to me for my birthday last week to say happy birthday, to send me a text message, to DM me, to comment on Facebook, whatever it was. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Birthdays are this really great reminder about all of the people who we have an impact on, all of the people who love us and value us and appreciate whatever it is that we offer. And this birthday was absolutely no exception. I'm going to take a quick minute to thank every single one of you who came to my surprise Zoom party that I was completely unaware of. So thank you, Fred. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Tacey. Thank you, Brenda, Armando, Jamie, Aaron, Kim and Dennis, Kelly, Mustang Dave, Amanda, Billy, Keith, Dave and Kathy, Lou, Lisa, Becky, the other Becky, and Rob and Alyssa. And if I missed anyone, I apologize. I cannot thank you guys enough. Having a 40th birthday is a big deal for a lot of people. I had planned on celebrating my 40th birthday overseas this year, which obviously hasn't happened because of COVID. So when I started thinking about it, you guys know because I talked about this, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, a few weeks ago, I decided to do a bunch of different things for all year this year to celebrate my 40th because I couldn't travel. So I didn't really plan on doing anything super big or super special, and hopping on a Zoom call under false pretenses, thank you, Aaron, spending the night with a group of friends who I love and adore, and just being able to see everyone's faces and chat with everyone about life and how people are doing and play a little bit of trivia, thank you, Pete, was amazing. And it was wonderful, and I cannot even begin to put into words how special you guys made my birthday. So thank you for that. And I had originally recorded a podcast, which I am going to talk about in a second, but this is a totally different podcast because of that birthday Zoom. I actually had planned on having a completely different conversation. This week's podcast was going to be about how we need to value other people's time when they choose to invest it in us. And I'm still going to talk about that a little bit, but the reason that I've decided to re-record the podcast is because that group of people that I just mentioned, who not only took the time to log in late at night, depending on which coast you live on, and spend an hour with me on my birthday from wherever you were in the world, your time is valuable. Some of you teach, some of you have kids, some of you both teach and have kids, and some of you work other jobs. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you spending some of your time with me. So yes, to those of you who did ask on that Zoom call, I have absolutely re-recorded this week's podcast for that purpose, because I think you guys all needed a shout out. And I think I needed to be able to say thank you to each and every one of you. If you are listening to the podcast and you were at that meeting, you can expect to get something in the mail from me within the next couple of weeks, because it meant so much to me that the next day I hand wrote you guys all a letter and mailed them out to you personally. Now, for those of you that live in Canada, you'll probably get it within the next week. But for those of you that live outside of Canada, it may take a couple of weeks to get to you. But the reason I did that is the reason for this podcast this week. When people choose to invest some of their valuable time into you, you need to show them honor and respect, and you need to value that time, because we as individuals only get a certain number of hours in the day, and we all have a lot to do. Work, kids, personal lives, regular adulting, which, let's face it, most of us don't want to do half of the time. But all of these things take time and energy. So when someone stops to send you a text message, or to show up to a Zoom birthday party just to surprise you, or to pick up the phone and give you a quick call, even if you don't have time to talk to them right at that minute, it's still really important that you acknowledge the value of the time that they're investing in you. It's a privilege to have someone invest time in you, whether it's 2 seconds for a text message or an email, or whether it's 5 minutes of a handwritten letter, or whether it's 2 minutes to simply pick up the phone, leave you a voicemail to say, I love you and I miss you. Whatever it happens to be, it's a privilege to have people who are willing to give you their time. And I think one of the issues that we've gotten to in the last year, but also maybe in the last decade because of social media, is we've stopped valuing people's time. People on Facebook Facebook are prompted now to send you a message like, hey, it's so-and-so's birthday. And so we don't personally value those messages. And I think that's absolutely a shame. So one of the things I did on my birthday, for every single person who commented, whether it was on my personal post or someone else's post to wish me a happy birthday, I personally said thank you back to each and every one of them. And if you're listening to the podcast and I missed your message, I apologize. There was hundreds of them, and I'm 99% sure that I got to all of them, but I may have missed one. And so if I did, I apologize. But it's a privilege that those people took 2 seconds to say happy birthday. It's a privilege that those people took way more than 2 seconds in some cases. It's a privilege to have people willing to invest their time and their energy into something that's meaningful to you. We all need to start treating other people like that is a privilege, like we are grateful to have their time, their investment, and their energy. This world is a crazy place, and we are all struggling to figure out how to navigate it while not being insanely emotionally exhausted every single day. So when someone is willing to pick up the phone, when someone is willing to write you a letter, when someone is willing to mail you something, all of these are a privilege and an honor. And I think we would be in a better place as human beings if we treated it that way. If someone's willing to take an hour out of their week and devote it to having coffee with you over Zoom, or someone is willing to take an hour out of their day to pick up the phone and call you, that's a privilege. That's an hour they could be spending doing anything they want in the world. Let's start treating it like the privilege that it is, like the honor that it is. Because when you get to a certain age, you get to determine where your time goes, where your energy is spent and what you're doing. Now, sure, granted, we all have to work for a living, and sometimes that's not necessarily a choice. So I get that there are some things that we just kind of have to do, but you don't have to pick up the phone and call your parents. You don't have to FaceTime with your grandparents. You don't have to check in on your friends. You make the choice to do that because they mean something to you, because you mean something to them, because those relationships are valuable. So let's start treating that time investment as valuable, as the privilege that it is, as the honor that it is, because it is a privilege. It absolutely is a privilege to have someone being willing to invest their precious time in you. It doesn't matter how much time someone gives you, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years, 50 years. That time investment is a privilege. It's an honor to have someone be willing to spend time with you, be willing to sometimes put up with our personal emotional roller coasters. And let me tell you, I have a few of those. But it's also a privilege to have someone sit with you when you're upset or struggling. And it's a privilege to have someone with you when you're sharing something joyful. And most of all, it's a privilege to have people want to be with you, regardless of circumstance. So this week, I really just wanted to say thank you to every single one of you who listens to this podcast, to every one of you who reached out. Thank you. My birthday may not have been what I thought it was going to be for my 40th, but it was so much better in so many other ways. I was reminded of just how much love surrounds me from all over the world. And if you're someone who lives on the other side of the world from where I am, and you took the time to send me a message to say happy birthday, thank you. Because sometimes when we get removed from people, life sort of gets in the way, and we don't always take the extra time and energy to go out of our way to reach out to those people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This week, think about the people in your life. Think about the time that they're investing in you. Treat that time like the privilege it is, like the honor it is. We are privileged as individuals to have one friend. If you have more than one friend, you're even more privileged. Having people care about you and willing to invest their precious time in you should be something that we treat as a privilege. And this birthday definitely reminded me of that. So take stock this week of how privileged you really are, how grateful you are for the people willing to invest their time with you, and just what that means. For me, my birthday was a great reminder of the number of people who I have had an impact on in some way, shape, or form. The number of people who I love and care about. The number of people who I am blessed to be able to call friend. It may have taken me 40 years, but I am surrounded with more love than I could have ever dreamed of. And that, in and of itself, is a huge privilege. Have a great week. Thank you for listening. And again, to every single one of you listening who reached out and said happy birthday. Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. I'll chat with you guys next week. Bye for now.